we got a new name in the Dallas Cowboys' ongoing, weird, wild, confusing Cowboys coaching search. Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram reporting Pete Carroll and the Dallas Cowboys, specifically Jerry Jones, have had conversations about the job. We'll break this all down, where it sits, what's next, what the Schottenheimer stuff is. We'll mention the kind of weird, but also not weird, the Cowboys, Rich Bisaccia storyline here. As we sit here, Thursday afternoon, what is your one-word reaction to the Cowboys' current coaching search? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Here's what Nick wrote for the Star-Telegram. They have confirmed that Jones has made contact with former Seattle Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll regarding the opening. The conversation has been described as informal, although the interest is legitimate enough to be reported, according to another source. There are no set plans for a formal interview as of Thursday afternoon. That gets it intriguing. The lack of an interview does make me question how real this one is. I would, in particular, love to know, when did the first conversations happen? Because if they were a week and a half ago, whatever. If they were a half ago, whatever. If they were a couple days ago, if they were today, okay. Well, I'm intrigued now. And I am at the point in general where I just don't want to go down the Schottenheimer path. I don't love Pete Carroll. But the search has been such a disaster class that I am a lot more open to this than maybe I would have been if this had been the first reported interview, for example. Bobby Belt also saying the noise has grown louder, and it's similar. The noise grew so loud for Schottenheimer that you had Clarence Hill, others saying expected to get done on Friday. Now, Belt does say he thinks Schottenheimer is still the favorite, but he says it popped on the radar this week and that there are people in the building who want to have Carroll as a real option. Now, it is also worth mentioning here that the Raiders have been heavily linked to Pete Carroll as a potential head coach candidate. In fact, The Athletic reported not long after Ben Johnson was hired as the Bears head coach that Carroll had emerged as the favorite for that particular job. So we're still kind of stuck in this awkward phase where how real is it? Is it a real option? Does this end up being Brian Schottenheimer? Is this just the Cowboys finding ways to get more buzz for their coaching search? I don't think we can ever rule that out. I also don't know if the Cowboys know what they want to do, because I don't know if Jerry knows what he wants to sign off on yet. More to come. But would you hire Pete Carroll as the next Dallas Cowboys head coach, given your current options right now? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off with the pinned comment of today's show. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Look, I am intrigued by this one. You can go back to when we were having these, like, okay, if and when Mike gets fired, moved on from, who are the top candidates? You can go look at our graphs, what we're talking about. Pete Carroll was one of the first name mentioned because he didn't really retire in Seattle. He got forced out of Seattle. It was all, that's why he's interested very much in still being a head coach. And make no mistake about it, there are very real pros and cons here. This is not a just make it happen. This is a no-brainer. Like that, I don't think that's how this is. And I do think that there's a lot to figure out here. Because it does sound like Stephen Jones wants Brian Schottenheimer. And I think if Jerry Jones was fully on board with this, Schottenheimer would have already been hired. This is informed speculation, maybe we'll call it that. It's not reporting. Don't clip me. I wonder if Jerry's the one that's had the pushback, because I think a lot of the reporting of, hey, Stephen wants the Schotty's the guy, a lot of that came from the Stephen Jones side of things. Not him himself, but those that know Stephen. So hypothetically, could this be a compromise? Could this be a potentially, hey, what if we make Brian Schottenheimer the OC under Pete Carroll? Would that work for you, Stephen? Would that work for us as, someone we trust a bit more to be a proven head coach and not ask a guy that hadn't called plays for us to do both the play calling and the OC and the head coach duty? Although Carroll and Schottenheimer were together in Seattle, but parted ways. Schottenheimer got fired. Pick your terminology. That marriage dissolved in the end. So I think it's not a one-to-one fit necessarily. And if you're hiring Gus Bradley as the DC, I don't have this contract. And there's a very real possibility in the scenario in which you hire Pete Carroll the OCs come in, and it goes, I don't like this one. So for now, and we'll spend some more time on this. This kind of falls into the Deion Sanders bucket, but it's out there now. So today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time's got a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Look for the super deal. It's the best value for any given event, by the way. You can see your seat view before you buy. There's on-time ticket delivery and the lowest price guarantee. You find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, download Game Time today over at GameTime.co. Use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Now, Carroll's coaching history, as he's also been linked to the Niners defensive coordinator job, by the way. Briefly was the Jets head coach. Didn't go that great. Patriots head coach was rather middling. Had great success as the USC head coach, and then spent 13 years, give or take, as the Seattle Seahawks head coach. However, the end of his tenure, as all tenures often do, wasn't quite as sharp. Carroll's last playoff win came all the way back in 2019, which is, again, not really what you're aiming for there. He's also old, which we'll talk about more in depth here in a minute. One other thing I want to mention here. The looming presence of Jason Witten. There's been a ton of reporting that the Cowboys want Jason Witten on the staff. They kind of want him as an heir of sorts to groom. And that may or may not, I'm going to go with may, have been an issue for other potential head candidates, that it's the same stuff the Cowboys are always going to think of. We're going to force you to have this guy. You're going to take this or not. And I think some coaches told them no. I think that was a factor in the McCarthy thing. Maybe why allegedly Kellen Moore is not as intrigued as the job as maybe he would have been a year or two ago or whatever. Now, Carroll is going to be 74 this season. You do need a replacement plan, because that would make him the oldest NFL head coach. Not just currently, but the oldest NFL head coach ever. Romeo Crennel was 73 in his last year. Now, Pete Carroll, I'll tell you what, he don't look 73. If I look like that at age 73, zero chance, I'm going to be a very happy person. That he does not act or look like a 73-year-old, but he is old. That is a ageism or not, whatever, I don't care. He is. So you want a replacement plan. I'm not saying this is a good replacement plan, but just start to connect the dots as to how it could make some sense for both sides. If Pete's on board, hypothetically training Jason Witten, taking him under his wing, coaching him up on how to coach, and then making him the future option. Now, again, this all gets real if there's an interview. Now, you don't have to go through the normal processes of having to request an interview with a team. You can just do the interview. Now, I don't think the Cowboys would hire anyone without an interview, but that's where you're at. And again, I still question if there's any real plan. But as someone who just doesn't want Schottenheimer as your head coach and also the play caller, because that's what he allegedly wants, I'll unplug the toaster for now. I still don't have faith in this Cowboys coaching search going the way it needs to go. I still question if this is just chum going in the water for us all to react to and tweet about the Cowboys and do videos and all that stuff. But it's worth mentioning, at least. Now, we've got all the Cowboys news you could want on this coaching search. Rumors, I suspect we'll be doing at-homes on Friday and Saturday somehow. Do not miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. Now, I do want to look here at all the different Rich Bisaccia stuff we were going to do a video on this with more Schottenheimer-focused stuff, but Pete Carroll came in and kind of dominated everything here. So I want to wind back the clock a little bit here to Josina Anderson saying, keep in mind the Cowboys have had informal conversation with at least one other head coach prospect that I'm aware of regarding their head coach vacancy. Deion is not the only one in said category. Now, that does apply to Pete Carroll now. It had also been reported by a couple different outlets that, Brian Schottenheimer, or that Rich Bisaccia was one of them. Joe Hoyt, who was early, maybe the first guy actually, on the Schottenheimer stuff, says the Cowboys have had, emphasis there, some level of interest in Rich Bisaccia, who is the team's old special teams coach. Now, Ed Warner followed this up with, again, earlier today, the Cowboys have not made a request to interview Rich Bisaccia with the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is important to mention here. Obviously, LaFleur is high on Bisaccia. There are rules and there are protocols that you have to follow when it comes to directly contacting coaches. Backdoor dealings happen, talk to the agent, whatever, and see if there's interest there. But remember that. Now, I do believe there was interest early in the search. In fact, Brian Broaddus had mentioned very early on, like in the immediate aftermath, that, hey, Bisaccia could end up getting an interview. For whatever reason, there has been no interview, and there is no interview scheduled. So I don't think the Bisaccia stuff was new interest. Just now they have interest in Bisaccia. I think this was, hey, maybe he was on their initial list, and they kind of, for whatever reason, it tapered off. It's just newly reported, which again is why I wonder where the Pete Carroll timeline actually slots in here. I do want to make note. If there is direct contact, that is tampering. That is not something that is allowed. This happened to the Cardinals-Eagles when Monty Ossenfort took over as the Cardinals GM. He reached out directly to Jonathan Gannon before they were allowed to do so, and legally allowed to do so, about if the job's open, do you want to interview? And Gannon answered the call. That's impermissible contact. Now, I would assume if you have, plausible deniability, it's fine. But there are rules you have to follow. That is different than what it is for Pete Carroll because he's not technically under contract with anybody. And it's kind of different than it is with Deion Sanders because he's a college coach. But there is still protocols you follow there. There'd be nothing more on brand, by the way, than losing a draft pick. And I even totally wouldn't rule out Cowboys were dealing special teams coach-wise, given the fact that you don't have Bones Fossil right now. And he's in Tennessee, and that's not going to be an option either. So it's all just wait and see. And I don't know, maybe you feel better, maybe you don't today with the Pete Carroll stuff. Predictions. Of all the searches, this has been one of them. Who do you think the Cowboys end up hiring as their next head coach?